Okay, I want to welcome everybody. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, April 30th, 2020 work session. Before we get started, I want the audience to know, and in recognition of Squire Sherry Sebastian, her father died last week, and we want to take a moment of silence for Sherry and the blessing for her family and what they've gone through and the tough ordeal. And so if everybody would think about the Sherry Sebastian's family and just say a little prayer for them. Let's take a moment of silence for the Sebastian family. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Sherry, God bless you. God bless you and your family. And we just can only imagine the trials and tribulations and what you have gone through, especially in these crazy times when you couldn't even have a normal funeral. So bless you, and hope everybody keeps their thoughts and their prayers in mind for your family. Let's move forward. The first item on the work session is approval of minutes from our regular meeting of April 17th, 2020. Any discussion on those? The next item is authorization to receive the county clerk's quarterly report for the third month ending March 31st, 2020. Mr. Hancock.
Yes, Judge, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you.
Okay. This is the quarterly report ending April, or beginning in April, getting all the way through the first quarter of the year. As you see in front of you, the bank book balance is $152,671. Year to date, it looks pretty good. I am super concerned right now about what is going to happen throughout this next quarter and for the first half of the year, whether we can keep up the totals. Right now, we're able to do everything we can just keep the doors open. And I want to tell the people of Frankfort and Franklin County that we appreciate their patience. We understand that this is a tough time, and we want the doors open just as much as they do. Having to do this business through telecommuting and through video conferencing, I know it's tough, and we apologize. Trust me, folks, we want the doors open. So we're going to do everything we can to get these doors open so we can collect tax dollars and keep everything moving forward in the county.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for.
And I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, let's do this way. We'll go back through the reverse order again. Squire Moore.
Good, Judge.
We don't see Squire Booth. Squire Tracy.
I'm good, thank you.
Squire Muller.
I'm good, thank you, Judge.
Squire Blackburn. Squire Sebastian.
Yes, thank you, Judge, for those kind words. And Mr. Clerk, I've got a question about if you guys have any guidance from maybe CAECO or the Department for Local Government or the Clerks Association about how to begin to calculate an impact, for licenses, fees, taxes, etc., transfers, motor vehicle, because we know so many things that come through your office probably aren't going to be keeping pace with the typical production you all have. So are they giving you any guidance about how to calculate that?
Squire Sebastian, we have had several meetings on that. I think that's such a fluid question, is how do we figure that, and what do new car sales look like after this? What does our typical collection look like? We're not going to see any growth, and we're just trying to figure out what it looks like not to have growth. So with that being said, we do not have an answer on that yet. Everyone is working on that, including Keiko. I sat on a 2-hour Zoom meeting, a Keiko Zoom meeting today, with them going over different scenarios and what we're seeing countywide and what we're going to have with the expected costs with elections and stuff of that nature. And I hope to go over that in your next meeting as to what the cost is going to be, what the loss is going to be, and what business moving forward is going to look like. But to answer your question, we don't have any answers quite yet. Nobody really quite understands the impact, the total impact of what this is going to look like. But as soon as I do know something, I do plan to come back to the court and keep you all up to date as soon as I know something. I do know more about the election at this point, but I think that would be something for later in the meeting, and I'll be glad to go over that later on in the meeting.
Thank you. Did they indicate on this 2-hour Zoom meeting if they were going to bring in, like, maybe hire some consultants to assist in making some forecasts? Or I'm just trying to get my arms around how someone is even going to make the attempt to do this, because I know state government has the consensus forecasting group, but they don't do that type of work for counties. So I was just wondering if CAFCO had brought a group together to start that work, because somebody's gonna have to put that kind of effort in across the Commonwealth. Thank you again.
Yeah, Keiko is absolutely looking at all options, and I think Keiko is going to be your answer for that question, Squire Sebastian. I think that Keiko is going to be the one that's going to have the guidance on what this economic recovery is going to look like, and what the economic recovery is going to look like for the for what we can expect from federal government to prop us up while this is going on. I know that Judge Moore out of Boone County is working right now with DC on what a stimulus package for our lost revenues are going to look like. But I think that's something that is just now starting. So once again, I don't quite have the answers, but I think we're all working in a direction to try to figure that out for all the counties, because all 120 counties in the state of Kentucky are really, everybody's having trouble with this at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Hancock? Seeing none, Jeff, thank you. The next item on the agenda is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 8, 1987, relating to the zoning ordinance in Franklin County for 85.388 acres of property identified as tract number 1 and tract number 2, located at 690 Duncan Road, from the Agricultural District AG to an Industrial General District IG. Mr. Hewitt.
Thank you, Judge. Good evening, Court. As the judge referenced, this is a zone change request for 85.38 acres of property located within Franklin County. It is a portion of a 102-acre property commonly addressed as 690 Duncan Road. The application was forwarded to the Franklin County Planning Commission, in which a public hearing was held on January the 9th. Testimony was provided and evidence entered into the record. The Planning Commission tabled that public hearing that evening to allow their clerk to prepare a summary of the testimony. The Planning Commission reconvened on February 13th, 2020, and rendered findings of fact. Next were approved by the Planning Commission, which are listed on page 1 of your ordinance. The Planning Commission has made a recommendation of approval to the fiscal court with a vote of 5-2. I do have the applicant and their legal counsel available if there are any questions directly to them. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Robert, if you don't mind, I'm going to go first. Please explain the process and what options the court may have as part of this process, besides letting this be the first reading.
Okay, so other than this going through as a normal ordinance reading of first and second, then final action, the court has the options available with this change ordinance or any others to request a transcript of the planning commission's hearing. And that would occur prior to the deadline that has been extended by the applicant, which is July the 13th, for final action to occur. So the fiscal court could request a verbatim transcript and then continue on with the ordinance. The fiscal court could also request and conduct their own public hearing in which new testimony would be provided to the fiscal court, and then final action once again to be taken prior to July the 13th.
Yeah, always that.
Of course, as always, the option is to continue on with second reading of the ordinance and take a vote based on the planning commission's record.
Squire Booth just joined us. Robert, can you briefly go over the two options other than just being the first reading again, real briefly?
Yes, Squire Booth. So the options made available for this or any other zone change is that the fiscal court could request a verbatim transcript of the planning commission's public hearing, review that, and either continue on with their ordinance action, or could then also request their own public hearing. Item 2 is that they could just, as opposed to requesting the transcript, go ahead and the fiscal court conduct their own public hearing and then take final action prior to the deadline, which is now July the 13th.
Okay, I'll open the floor for questions, and we'll start with Squire Moore.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just said, okay, I heard him.
Okay.
It took me a while to find sorry,
Okay,
I'm not in bad shape today.
okay, we're
Thank you,
glad.
Judge.
Okay, Squire Moore.
Judge, I'm in favor of having the first reading now and voting on this in the next meeting.
Okay, okay. Do you have any other questions?
I do not.
Okay, Squire Booth.
I also am in favor of having the first reading today.
Okay, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Squire Tracy.
Obviously, after receiving this late yesterday afternoon, and not being able to go through it all, and hearing and reading, so much about it, I would defer to the magistrate that this property is located in.
Do you have any other questions, Squire Tracy? Nope. Okay. Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge Robert. Just I guess a question. I guess we were told like two court meetings ago that we weren't going to be able to hear this because of the current situation that we're in with the virus. So I'm curious what's changed now, because I think we were told that because we can't have a public input right now, we were going to wait on this. So could you or Robert maybe answer that?
Sure, I can answer that. Did you ask that to me as the judge, or to Rick? I'm sorry. Who'd you ask that question to, Michael?
Either you, Judge, or...
Okay, yeah. The issue is tonight is I want to get the first reading in, because I don't know where you as a court want to go. If you ask for a transcript, the last time we had one of these types of hearings, it took over a month to get the transcript in. And then it was several weeks after that before we got the public hearing in, because the court asked for that. That if that were to be the timeline from today until July 13th, we could be all the way up to the middle or not the end of June. So I'm trying to make sure that the timeline gets fit in. Now, you asked about the public hearing. If the court decides to do a public hearing, I would say we would probably at the very earliest would have it sometime in early part of June. Hopefully at that time there'll be a little less stringent precautions, and we will come up with a means to do it. I'm just trying to make sure that we meet the July 13th guideline, and so I'm concerned about that time frame based on the two particulars that could take quite a bit of time.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Obviously, this is a big issue. I purposely kind of stayed away from it, just because our attorney has kind of told us to keep arm's length. So, it's definitely a hot topic. I do, as Squire Tracy said, it's a huge amount of paperwork that was brought to us. That's going to take some time to go through. So, at this point, I would like to wait on it, but I would also like to hear from Squire Blackburn, because this is in his district. Thank you.
Squire Blackburn.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to hold our own public evidentiary hearing. I think the court would be better informed if we were to do so, and that's the direction I want to go.
Okay, Mr. Sparks, would you mind, or Robert Hewitt, one of you two, to talk about the public hearing and how that works?
I'll follow up with Robert as to the procedure and your timeline, so I'll let him go first. This is Rick.
Thank you. If the court decides to proceed with the public hearing, I would then advertise that in the newspaper. I would follow the same procedure as with the hearing before the Planning Commission in accordance with KRS Chapter 100. I would notify the adjacent property owner and the parties of interest that were identified at the public hearing, establishing the date and time and location of the hearing. I would also strongly recommend to the court that a stenographer be retained to take a transcript of the hearing, and that the judge executive would serve as the hearing officer. We would conduct the public hearing in the same way. It would be an evidentiary hearing, much like the way the Planning Commission holds it, quasi-judicial type process. And you, the court, would take testimony and evidence into the record, and then upon hearing from all parties and all sides, hopefully you render a decision. One thing that's important to keep in mind that Judge Wells has referred to is that there is a deadline of July the 13th for the fiscal court to take final action. So that is important. In the event that final action by the court is not obtained by July the 13th, then by default, the action of the Planning Commission will stand. Rick, did I leave anything out?
Nope, that's about right. And I think that was one of the concerns. At this point, the reality is, if you wanted to schedule a public hearing next week, that's impossible under the governor's current restrictions. My understanding is that those will be modified from time to time, depending on how the virus progresses after restrictions. I'm certainly hopeful that our state and our community does not take the lifting of restrictions lightly and end up getting sloppy and causing additional problems, which will extend it. But I think the judge, frankly, prudently put it on earlier as opposed to crunch time, depending on the will of the body politic. The issue before the court today is, based on the findings of fact and the record that you've received from planning and zoning, is whether or not it merits a zone change and a second reading. If you believe that there may be, or if you feel that further information is necessary to evaluate whether or not the zone change is appropriate, or the economic, physical, or social character of the environment has changed such that it substantially alters the zoning, or the existing zoning was inappropriate, which are the three factors or three findings, one of three you have to make, one of four. Then further information by way of a transcript at least, or a transcript and a public hearing is necessary. The reality continues to be that there's going to have to be some restrictions lifted before a gathering of that type can be had. So you've got the maximum window, unless it's extended again, because of emergencies. And I hope everybody recognizes that this is, I hate to use the new normal because there's nothing normal about this whatsoever. But when you're evaluating how to respond fluidly and appropriately, a certain amount of flexibility is built in. But right now, you can't have a public hearing for a while anyway.
Okay. Squire Blackburn, do you have any other comments or questions?
I'd just like to say that I agree with Rick on you getting it on today's agenda to try to get the ball rolling as soon as possible. I know after the planning commission had given their recommendation, it wasn't recognized that we were going to deal with it until 2 meetings later. So I wondered about the first time why we waited, and now I understand that we've got to move forward quickly. There's going to be a lot of testimony given. The people at the last meeting their comments were held for time because there were so many. So there's a lot of information to be had, and I think it's just in the best interest of the members on the court to have a fresh approach instead of a 400-page binder full of information that the commission deemed finding of facts and some that were omitted in the process. Anyway, I moved to have a motion to do an evidentiary hearing.
Well, we're in question, and we'll get to your request in just a moment. We've got Squire Booth, if you'll wait, it's Squire Sebastian's time, and but I want to make sure you're through with your questioning, Squire Blackburn, before I move on. And we will come back to your request. Can't hear you.
And his mic is green.
Did you hear me?
Can't hear you now. We can now.
All right. I have a lot more to say on this issue, but I think we'll hold that for our evidentiary hearing if that's possible. If not, it'll be voted down. I'm ready to move on it.
Okay. All right. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you. So when I got my packet yesterday, and I'm very thorough about reading everything, there was absolutely no way I could read through this material to prepare for this meeting, which we've had a lot of material before, but this is just one action item on here. So I'm most certainly going to need more time to read through this document to see where everything is and what exhibits are referenced in the comprehensive plan and what evidence has been brought before from the other side, because everybody else got the same thing I did last night, and to try to read this in, a 24-hour period with the other items, there was absolutely no way. And if you know anything about what I've done on this court, I read absolutely everything.
I'm sorry,
Members
Squire.
of the court, I realize that can be overwhelming, and yeah, it's part of it on your 400 one. This is not on for second reading. There's no action that can be taken today. If you want to digest it, that's the whole point of trying to get it started right now, is to give you time to make that evaluation
To make that
in
vote.
consideration of the second reading. So I don't want any artificial senses of urgency created. It's a garden variety zone change, and it's handled just like every other one. But this is not, there will be no vote today one way or the other as to the finality of this zone change. This is the starting point. So maybe that can relax everybody so you can read it and digest it, etc. That's the whole point of getting it started.
Yeah, you've got 2 more weeks until the next meeting, which would be the second reading if the court chooses to go that route. So there's at least 3 of you that are saying you want more time, so you will have more time to vote on it. The question and the concern that I have is, as long as July 13th seems far away, it's not that far away when it takes quite a bit of time to go through the process of hearings. And just to that fact, Squire Blackburn, if we have a public hearing, you will be limited in the time that you speak as well. So that's just going to be part of it. We're not going to let anybody stand up there all day long and speak for hours on end. So there will be a limit, because that you seem to think that is a concern, that people didn't get to speak all they wanted to. So there will be a limit on when or if we have a public hearing as well. But so we have now started the clock. There will be a decision you can make a decision right now. If the majority of the court wants to do a public hearing, we will do a public hearing and not do a second reading until we have a public hearing. Or if the majority of the court is ready to move on, and in 2 weeks do May the 15th do a public hearing, to do a second reading vote, we can do that. Or if the majority of the court wants to do a transcript before we do anything, before we do a second reading, we can do that. So those are options that are on the table.
Don't forget to call Marty again.
Squire Booth, did you have a question?
Well, I did not realize that there were opinions from people attending the planning and zoning meeting that were not voiced. And I certainly would like to know about their opinions and their facts that they wanted to bring forth concerning this issue. So I do not want to just do a first reading and go on. I think we need to do the complete and thorough legislative process, because we are a legislative body. And we need to impress the people and the citizens of Franklin County that we do pay attention.
Squire Booth, this is the first reading. The question is what we do for the second reading. So we've started the clock on, today is the first reading. The question will be what we're going to do from here on out. What is the next meeting we're going to have?
All right.
Okay.
We should do a second reading.
Other questions? Other questions? Any other questions? And I'll go by show of hands if you've got a question. A question. Okay. So let's go back to the request by Squire Blackburn. Squire Blackburn has asked for a public hearing. If we do a public hearing, if the majority of the court wants to do a public hearing, we will not do a second reading until the public hearing is finished. We will vote at the end of the public hearing, and it probably will not be until June until I can figure out how we do it safely and properly, to have the public hearing. And I want to say this, Squire Booth, there may be a chance that we may have to limit the number of people to speak as part of that because of social distancing. So your issue may still come back up, Squire Booth. So I don't know those particulars if we go that route. I just want everybody to be aware that those particulars could come into play if we do a public hearing. And the public hearing will not be done in this courtroom, I don't think. The last time we did this, we did it at the courthouse, and it may be easier to do that, I don't know, but that's maybe how we do it as part of it. With that being said, if Rick Sparks or Robert Hewitt, do you have anything else to say before I go and ask what the majority of the court wants?
No, sir, I was just gonna also, point out that this is the first reading. Even if you schedule it between now and the second reading, for a second reading, upon further review, you can still ask for the transcript, et cetera. The risk is that you start running out of time. And not only time, but logistics of any public hearing that you hold. I didn't get to see Andy yet today. I'll watch him later on, but yesterday he was talking about masks and certain other logistical things that have to be done in the workplace, et cetera. All those are going to have to be taken into consideration, which again goes back to what I think was a prudent decision to at least get this first reading going, to give the court flexibility on what to do after that. Keep your options open. It kept your options open, pardon me.
Mr. Hewitt?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna ask of you. There are gonna be 3 decisions. One, that we go with the second reading of the court of the zone change on May the 15th. 2, you want a transcript. 3, you want a public hearing. Is that okay, Mr. Sparks?
Yes, sir, and I keep going back to this. There's really no first option. The second reading, it's going to be the second reading whenever. Your question to decide is whether or not, in the analysis of the KRS Chapter 100-213 standard, whether you're going to have a public hearing to take a look at your own findings of fact.
Okay, so you just leave that out and come back and say, I'm just giving an option of, if a court member wants to go straight on and have the second reading as soon as possible, they can say that. I was just opening that up to say that, as opposed to.
That's correct. That's correct, sir. And then if 4 members of the court, all things being equal, vote after a second reading, then it's a zone change. That's the way it's handled.
Okay. All right, Squire Moore.
You're gonna.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
I was gonna say you've got 2 of them on for today. It's the same.
It's gonna be the same
kind
thing.
of protocol on every one.
I
Yes,
know.
sir.
I know. So I'm gonna start with Squire Moore.
Okay, Rick and Robert, if we do our own public hearing, there's no need for a transcript, correct?
Correct.
You've got the option. Everything that's in the
Yeah,
first
you
record.
could. It's just,
Yeah.
instead of 400 pages, we got 900 or 1,000 pages to go through. So I don't want to do either. I just want to have a second reading and go on, but the rest of the court looks like it's going to want to do a public hearing, so, but that's where I am.
Okay, your second.
I'm not for doing a public hearing
Okay.
or get a transcript. I don't
Okay.
need a transcript.
Okay. Squire Booth. Do you know your options, Squire Booth?
Our options are, we have the consider this the first, well, it is the first reading. Our options are not to have a public hearing or to have a public hearing. And whether or not we have a public hearing, we have a second reading at some point in time before July the 13th. Is that correct? I think it is correct. Well, therefore, I would like to know what some of the people that are concerned in this issue feel about it that didn't have time to express their feelings, but I do not want to go through a public hearing if it is a hassle on the social distancing and the time it takes to read the transcript that we have.
So what is your,
I don't think that is a transcript, but I don't know what else to call it. I would say just go on to the second reading without having a public hearing.
okay? Squire Tracy?
I'm fine with public hearing.
Public hearing? Okay?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Squire Muller?
Thank you, sir. Since this area is in Squire Blackburn's district, I'm gonna stand with him and support his request for a public hearing.
Squire Blackburn, we know your public hearing. You want to say it?
Yes, I am for a public hearing, and I strongly urge everybody to make sure that we get everything before us before we move forward.
Squire Sebastian?
You know, in this, since this is a real, large issue for Squire Blackburn, so, and I, you know, feel like I need to support my fellow magistrate in hearing everything and having the opportunity to read the document. So at this point, I would be for the public hearing as well.
Okay.
Just so everyone feels that they've had their say. Thank you.
Okay, that's the majority of the court wants a public hearing. I'll work with Tommy Russell. I'll work in every way possible that we will have a public hearing. It could be here. It more than likely will be over at the Judicial Center, and I'll work to get it on as soon as possible, as early in June as we can. And I do want to say this. I don't know for sure, but I want to make sure that you all understand, because two people have brought it up, Squire Blackburn and Squire Booth, about not hearing everybody's testimony. I cannot guarantee that we may put a limit on the number of people that will be allowed to speak because of social distancing. So we all are going to have to be cognizant of safety. That is first and foremost in moving forward with a public hearing, and that is the safety and well-being of all our constituents here in Franklin County. Number one. With that being said, Squire Moore, you have another question, I see.
I do. And this is a question to Rick Sparks, if we don't have an opportunity to do a public hearing because of social distancing, it's my feeling that if it looks like that's going to be the case, and it looks like we might vote this down, we better get a transcript so we know what we're voting down.
That's correct. One of the things that is critical is to remember the court's standard of review in these matters. You've got specific findings of fact that you have to make, voting it up or down, and it can't be arbitrary. You can't just make it up. There's got to be some evidence, etc., to support your decision. The first reading is based on the public hearing held by the Planning Commission. the first reading after the public hearing that you have would be based on your own findings of fact. If you're going to decline or disagree with the findings of fact from the planning commission, you really at this point, without a transcript, at least have no basis to deny it. So if you're going to go one in that particular direction, or even keep that option, I keep going back to options here. That's what the game's all about. As you all exercise a quasi-judicial sort of fact-finding, it has to be a fact-finding. It cannot just be an artificial exercise. So the transcript could be vital, or a public hearing, plus all of the information that's contained in the record. If you reach a different conclusion on the same facts, as long as it's not arbitrary, tainted, prejudiced, etc., that's the legislative, or pardon me, the quasi-judicial function you have to exercise. It's just part of it. I can't break it down or simplify it any more than that, but you've got to have some facts to back it up one way or the other. Otherwise, your second reading is just exactly this, a second reading to approve the zone change. If you do have a public hearing, like I said, or a transcript, and you come to a different conclusion, then you just have to specify those findings of fact.
I think Squire Moore's question is an excellent question. So, Rick, the question I have for you is, can the court, if they so choose, find findings of fact from a public hearing without the transcript?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay. But if there was an issue about not being able to get everyone in, and the public hearing is not, I don't know, for lack of a better word, is as public hearing as we could have, and not everyone got to speak, or we limited. Would it behoove us to go on now and order the transcript in addition to having the public hearing?
I can hear you all cringe about just the idea of having to read all of that at one time. It doesn't befriend me too much having to read a whole lot, but yes, that's the whole point. And let me just remind the court this, and remind everybody who may hear me say this. I mean, we don't know what we're doing, y'all. This has never been done. This has never been a crisis that the U.S., much less local governments, faced. We're all in an analysis, making analysis of different things. The best we can do is sort of use existing protocols and the framework of the rules we've got as closely matched as we can. I have no idea what would be the result if, because of, for example, say another shutdown, or the virus takes off again, et cetera, and we've got to redo, et cetera. I mean, nobody 3 months ago would have predicted it. Well, that's not really true. But the degree in which we've had to respond socially and governmentally is totally unprecedented. So, Judge, to answer your question without just prattling on, you ought to try to get the complete most information you can to make your decision based on. So if something goes wrong, and I always assume something's going to go wrong, at least you've got as much on the table as you can possibly do. I have no way to know what happens if, for example, another shutdown occurs and it takes us into how long, and we can't have public hearings. I don't know the result. But try to avoid that result by having as much on the table as you possibly can.
Okay, so my question.
A transcript is not a bad idea to supplement the rest of the record. Again, hedging your.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Can I executively order a transcript, or do we have to go through this process of seeing if everybody would be in agreement to order the transcript?
A vote would probably be inappropriate on the first reading. but I think the court's consented and the court's consensus is to get a transcript without maybe a necessary vote.
Can I see a thumb up on a transcript? Can I see a thumb up on a there's only 2 people want a transcript? Marty and me. Only 2 people. We got 3. We only got 3 people. We don't have the majority of the court that would want a transcript to back this up. Squire, okay, we've got 4 now.
I think you might have.
Oh, you want a question, Squire Tracy?
Yes, sir. So what you're saying is you're gonna go ahead and give us we can go ahead and get the transcript, that way we have that.
Yes. If I can get 4 votes. I only have 3. Got 4. Okay. All
I
right.
don't think we need it right now, but there's an option, might need it down the road.
Well, it takes 30 days. So it could take up to 30 days to get it. That's why I'm trying to, that's why we're doing this all today.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna leave this one with, this was the first reading. We're going to have a public hearing and order a transcript. And the public hearing will be as early in June as we can get it, based on the governor's release of allowing gatherings. Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a recommendation to my fellow magistrates. The planning commission meetings were filmed, and you can watch them. And if reading isn't your thing in these 400-page documents, so it's all public record already. And the reason I wanted to hold the evidentiary hearing is because some things were left off of it, and I just want to make sure they're included.
Now, and y'all, let me qualify something, and I'm really excited about the opportunity, frankly, that was recorded, but that does not substitute for an official transcript, nor does it substitute to the other. What the court may want to seriously consider doing, just for ease of information, is in that hearing, when and if one is held, if that's the direction that the court is going, to also get a copy of that to supplement your record, because it's the same information in different format, but it cannot substitute for a certified type transcript.
Everybody
And
understand
that's
that?
really weird, because it's the best evidence you can get about what actually happened, but you're going to have to incorporate that into your record as well.
Okay. All right. All that said, everybody understand the best we can of where we are with item number 4.
Hey, Jeff?
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Now, item number 5. Robert?
Judge,
What?
I think Michael has a question.
Squire Muller. Sorry. Squire Muller. Squire Muller.
Could I request, can you hear me? Judge, could I request that any transcripts we get could just be done electronically so we don't have to cut a tree down?
Well, you can't do that for Squire Moore.
They're already dead anyway, Michael. Paper's already been printed.
It's recycled paper.
Okay, I was just trying.
All mine's electronic anyway, brother, so I was just teasing.
We'll send you electronic, Squire Muller.
I'd like to do the whole package.
We'll do our best we can. That's it. We understand. Okay, let's move on to the next item, item 5. Robert, are we having fun yet with your items?
We sure are.
I can tell. Okay, let's go to the first reading of an ordinance amending number 8, 1987, relating to the zoning ordinance for 3+ acres of property located at 1003, 1005 Twilight Trail from limited commercial CI to industrial commercial IC. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Judge. So this zone change request is for tracks 1A, 1B, and track 2 of the Suburban Park subdivision off the Twilight Trail. Some of you may recognize this property as the former offices of the Alcohol Beverage Commission. And then I think there were some other state offices in there as well, next to, I think, Steiger's Auto Sales. So the planning commission, well, let me first start out by saying I have forwarded you an amended ordinance because finding of fact number 3 located on page 1 of your ordinance was incorrectly input. What I had in there originally on number 3 was a provision the planning commission placed on their recommendation to, I'll get back to that in a second. So and I forwarded this revised ordinance to both you members of the court, the clerk, as well as the county attorney, and I'd like to read it into the record. So it's finding of fact number 3, and I'm taking this from the minutes provided by the planning commission's clerk. And finding of fact number 3 reads, the property is not properly classified in the comprehensive plan for future land use. So the planning commission held their evidentiary hearing on March, bear with me, let's see, March 12th. They received testimony and evidence into the record, and the planning commission has made a recommendation by unanimous vote for approval of the applicant's zone change request with the 3 findings of fact located on your ordinance, with also the stipulation that no manufacturing take place on these 3 tracts. And just as an aside, simultaneous to that public hearing, the applicant requested a variance to the required buffering between industrial property and the adjacent residential zoning. The planning commission did approve that applicant's request. That would only be applicable if this zoning is successful. So by unanimous vote, the planning commission recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Robert, I'll go first before we go around the horn. I think you said there was a conditional use of no manufacturing in this area. There are homes right on the back side of that, actually a nice neighborhood back in there. And were there residents that came and discussed this, to talk about this?
I don't recall any opposition to the request.
Okay, but the conditional use was put in there to not allow manufacturing. So whatever this is, and I know I don't think I'm supposed to say, but whatever it is, it's non-invasive under this zone change. This zone change takes place 10 years from now. They're not there. Somebody else wants to come in, and if they want to do manufacturing, what would happen at that point in time?
Staff would let them know that it's not a valid activity based on the condition placed by the planning commission. I would like to say, Judge, that based on the application as well as the testimony, the applicant did indicate that the proposed use of the property, the redevelopment as well as any new development, would be for mini storage units.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know whether I could say that or not. So, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like to indicate, based on the minutes, that one of the planning commissioners asked the applicant directly if the condition was placed on this property to prohibit manufacturing, would he be opposed to that? And the applicant replied, not at all.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Moore, Squire Moore. Squire Moore.
He gave a thumbs up.
Thumbs up? Okay.
Good.
I'm sorry, I don't see all that.
Yeah, me too.
Squire Booth.
Talking about the industrial park that's close to the former offices of AOC, is that the industrial park in which to which, testimony pertains. Industrial Park number 2, I think it is.
No, Squire Booth, this is off Twilight Trail. And this is where, ABC used to be there. What else was there, Robert?
I can't remember the other offices. There are some daycares close by, but I can't remember what was in that other building. I'm sorry. Right off the top of my head.
Twilight Trail is just off the interstate, Squire Booth.
Yeah.
Okay, you know where it
And
is.
it is the one that I have in mind, and I vote no, we should not approve.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. I'm not asking you to vote. I'm just asking if you have questions.
Oh, well, that was my one point.
Okay. Squire Tracy?
Just one quick question, Judge. You mentioned buffer, Robert, can you go over that again one more time about the buffer?
So the zoning ordinance specific to this industrial classification requires buffering between an industrial activity and a residential zone or land use. That provision within the zoning regulation is not very clear. It does require a minimum distance, and I would have to go back through the code to double check. Let's see, it requires 80 feet in this instance, and the current layout of the property only accommodates for 65 feet, and that's based on the location of the existing building. And so the applicant have requested relief from the 80-foot buffer to allow for the 65 based on the existing conditions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Squire Muller?
Robert, thank you again for your presentation. Quick question, I guess it's a statement also, is that I'm getting the feeling during all the times we're going through right now that we're going to see more and more office space come up for rezoning because people are working from home, and I think government and everyone else is going to realize that maybe it's not as important to rent space. Do you think that's a fair statement, Robert? Are you seeing any more of that coming down the pike yet?
It is definitely a potential for adaptive reuse. Office, we have been thrust into an electronic age based on our current global condition, and I think as we have to, and I agree with you, where employers may find that it's not as important to have actual real estate for offices. This property, to my understanding, became available as a result of the consolidation and the redevelopment of downtown that the state did down on Miro Street. So, the state has always been looking to consolidate and get out of leasing as much as possible. But I haven't seen, this is just the beginning of what could be a trend. So I won't call it a trend yet. Is that fair?
Yes, thank you. One other question, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't there 2 other storage units in this area?
Yes, there are, down Twilight Trail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Squire Blackburn?
I think Scotty asked the question that I was concerned with, the 80 foot to the 65 foot. But I think it being a storage facility, I don't see the beepers, the backup beepers of the fork trucks and all that stuff being an issue to the folks on Briar Patch, and I'm fine with moving forward.
Okay. Squire Sebastian?
Thank you. Robert, the question that I had for you has already been asked. If there were residents who came to the planning commission and I think you indicated no. Can you just tell me for sure?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I've had no, this is in the district that I represent, and, I've not heard anything from any of the residents back in the neighborhood there, so. And I also know that there are some storage units at the end of Twilight Trail, and across 127, there are also some storage units. So I know this area has quite a bit of that in it, so thank you.
Okay,
No, I was gonna say, just remember, Court, this is the same exact process that you have to apply on your analysis as you were called upon under the previous item. And the exact same options are available, as to the findings of fact as presented. That's how you work a zone change determination. So I just want to mention that this is the exact same process. As you go through your analysis, you still have the exact same options if you want to look at it or delve into it another way.
okay, I'll ask that. Squire Muller, you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Robert, quick question. Could you refresh my memory? When Squire Tracy brought up buffer, it made me think of, obviously, landscape type material. What is our code as far as when something like this is built next to a subdivision? Are they required to quote unquote buffer it with plant material or anything like that, or no?
Yes, they are, and that is one of the dilemmas in this case, in that the area that is to serve as the buffer is currently occupied by every underground utility you can imagine. So we work closely with utility companies, and they didn't have an objection to reduction in the material, but of course prefer if anything is placed in there that they be contacted and consulted, because they don't want anything to damage, obviously, any digging or any other plant material or anything that would prohibit the utility company's ability to service their lines or facilities. So typically, it's a triple row of evergreen trees, spaced 15 feet on the center. The applicant did, I believe it's in your file. The applicant has agreed to construct a privacy fence to serve as a visual obstruction.
Any other questions, Squire Muller? Okay, let's go back and start again around, and you've got a second reading on May the 15th, or you can get a transcript and a public hearing, or you can do a public hearing. What option do you want to take, Squire Moore?
I'll be ready for the second hearing, Judge.
Okay,
Second.
okay, thank you. Squire Tracy?
Judge, I have one more quick question if you don't care. Robert, did you touch on the letters were mailed out to surrounding homeowners and businesses per se?
Yes, adjacent property owners are notified by first-class mail from our office 2 weeks prior to the meeting or the hearing, as well as an advertisement placed within the State Journal 2 weeks prior to the hearing, as well as the Sunday prior to.
Okay, thank you.
What's your option, Squire Tracy?
Move forward, sir.
Okay. Squire Muller? I'm sorry, Squire Booth.
Oh, yes, I say move forward to the second hearing.
Okay. Squire Muller?
I would agree. It seems like everything's in place and they've gone about things in the right manner, so.
Okay. That's 4 people. Well, I'm not going to go through anymore. We have enough people to move forward on it. Okay. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of an application for grant funds with the Kentucky Department for Local Government Recreational Trails Grant Program. Ann, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. As many of you will remember, This is an application we've tried before. Actually, this is gonna be the third time, and we hope it's the charm. Charlie Lewis and I presented this project to the Department for Local Government last year, and it was very favorably received. They understood the importance of this project for the safety of the public, pedestrians accessing Lakeview Park. But once it got to the higher, the executive level, it did not get approval. So we feel really strong about applying for this project again. It'd be a $50,000 project with a 20% match in kind or cash or both. The way I've written this project is that it could be accomplished in the summer and fall of 2021. So knowing the stringent situation we find ourselves in with budgeting, we could actually budget this project in our next budget year, which would begin July 1st, 2021. So that make it easier for us to be able to plan for any cash that we might have to outlay for this project or what in kind we could perform. So I'd like to try this project again. I think it's very important.
Okay. All right. Squire Moore. Okay. Squire Tracy. Okay. Squire Booth. Thank you. Squire Muller. Squire Muller.
Thank you, Ann. One quick question. Can you hear me, Judge?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Ann, for presenting this. One quick question. You said you presented twice. This is hopefully the charm. What does the application process look like when you quote unquote present it? What's the format of that?
Well, of course, the written application goes in now, and then sometime, well, it's usually in the fall, but who knows with the current schedule, but we're given a date that we can come and present it to a committee that's set up by the Department for Local Government. And Charlie Lewis and I have always gone and presented our projects, as well as people from other counties in the state, other municipalities, so that we can do an in-person presentation and let them know how important we feel this project is, and explain it and answer any questions they might have. After that, it goes to the governor's office with either approval for funding, and then at that point, it's up to the governor's office to make the choice on the project.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Okay. Squire Blackburn.
Yes, and I want to thank you so much for being so diligent and working so hard to find grant funds for our county. I don't believe I've ever thanked you as much as I feel like you need to be thanked. You do a tremendous job and tenacity and sticking after it, and I appreciate it, and I'm completely for it.
Thank you.
Squire Sebastian.
And I appreciate your persistence in going after this again, and like you, hope that the third time's a charm. Thank you very much for continuing to work on this one, especially because this was a good application the first two times it was turned in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And let's go to the next one. And this is a submission of an application for a grant funds for the coronavirus response with Homeland Security and Emergency Management for assistance with our firefighters grant.
Yes, this actually has window has just opened. It's one of those new grant programs in response to the coronavirus. As you remember, we've already applied to Assistance to Firefighters grants for some ballistic vests for our firefighters. But this is a new program, a supplemental Assistance to Firefighters grant program. And the fire department has been working with me to address some of their needs in response to the coronavirus. What they would like to apply for are 53 units of reusable respirators that have a replaceable filter. We didn't have an estimate. We were waiting for an estimate to come in yesterday, and Mr. Brewer's provided that for me. So it looks like the cost of that project would be around $2,374.24. It has a 10% match, so we'd be up for $237.42. in hopes that we would receive funding for those respirators for the fire department.
Okay, are any questions on that? Any questions on that? Squire Booth?
Are respirators the same as masks? They're not, are they?
I believe there it's a little bit more protection than just a traditional mask.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
And can you give the amount again? My phone was playing dual and banjos here when you were talking.
Yes, for 53 units and also some additional filters would be $2,374.24. And we would have to provide $237.42 of that. We would have to actually match that from the fire department, one of their line items of the general fund. We couldn't match it with the CESF funds we've received from the other government funding, because we can't use federal funds as a match. So just, you know, already had that understood with Mr. Brewer, and I have already talked about that, and he indicated that yes, we would be able to fund that $237.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, and yes, I'm completely aware you can't match federal funds with federal funds or grant money with grant money.
okay, any other questions? Squire Booth?
I need to hear that total again, 2,000 and something.
2,000, yes, $2,374.24.
And that's for 50 respirators?
For 53 respirators, one for each of our firefighters.
I see. And how much for the filters?
That's including the extra filters.
Okay, thank you.
Just one clarification. Squire,
Dollars that is?
It doesn't give me an amount that's in each package. Mr. Brewer or the chief may be able to provide that information for us. I'm just looking at the quote that's come in from the vendor.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
good evening, Court. This is Assistant Chief Brewer. The quote I received, the mask or the filters come in lots of 100, and the quote was for actually 200 filters. So we would have some replacement filters as well.
okay? Any other questions? Okay, the next item,
This is Rick. Can I ask Ann a question?
yes.
And do you know if there is any funding or any grants that might be available for public employees or to assist with masks in their discharge of their duties, such as inspectors, sheriff's deputies, bailiffs, etc.?
At this time, the only funding that I've been able to find, of course, is, you know, we got some a coronavirus emergency funds from the CARES Act. So we have a little bit of that to work with. I'm still watching for other opportunities to request more funding for those items. And also we're watching very carefully to see what kind of assistance is going to be provided to states and local governments. And hopefully that will be an allowable expense item also.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just trying to look forward, frankly, to the courthouse opening and the issues with that kind of public traffic that will start when we're able to reopen our courts.
Absolutely.
Rick, if you don't mind, today I got an email from Vince Lang, and there will be a meeting with the governor, and we were supposed to submit questions to be brought up to the governor. I've submitted that question. Who will pay for the PPE that is necessary for the employees working in the judicial center when it is opened back up? And so Vince texted me back and said that he would. That was a great question. He wanted to make sure that the governor gave an answer on what will happen there. So the governor may give us a little enlightenment on that too. So,
Thank you very much, Judge. I've distributed that question over the last couple of days, and it's all up in the air. So that's a significant issue, as I mentioned earlier, and it will remain so until we can get some guidance on how to do that safely.
yes, sir. Okay. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing Franklin County to enter into a 3-year contract with Recollect Systems Incorporated for a web-based application focusing on solid waste management information for residents' use. So, Miss Brittany, are you on the line?
I am. Good evening, Court.
Miss Brittany, if you would tell us how this application could be used for the public.
Sure. So, Recollect is a company that kind of develops these web-based applications, and they have a couple different programs available for municipalities. So what we're looking into is a phone and web-based application that would be free for residents to download. It provides, basically what would happen is somebody would type in their address, and based on your address, it would pop up a calendar for you, tell you your exact trash and recycle pickup day, give you any kind of schedule for programs that the county has going on or special events related to solid waste and the programs that the road department puts on. It also allows people to sign up for notifications. So it would be a really great asset to have in case we have any kinds of delays due to weather or our hauler missing some streets due to short staffing. As soon as I find out, I could send out a notification, and anyone who is signed up for those notifications would get them on the spot. The other tool that is associated with this project is called the Waste Wizard, and what that is an online database where a resident could type in an item that they are trying to dispose of, and it would populate with all the different locations within the county that where something could be taken to, or what program it would qualify under and things like that. So say someone was looking to get rid of a refrigerator, it would they would type in refrigerator, and it would tell them, call the county road department and ask for the environmental code enforcement officer, or if they searched motor oil, it would tell them, you could take it to AutoZone or wait for our household hazardous collection day. It's also got some other small, neat things that we would be able to do. In addition to the notifications, we can put out small snippets of education related to solid waste. I apologize, I lost my train of thought. It's a good way to be transparent and keep people in the loop, because I feel like a lot of our updating on the county's social media or the county's website often gets overlooked, especially related to solid waste. So I think this is a great opportunity for people to participate and have a 24/7 access point for solid waste.
Brittany, how would this be paid for?
So this was written into the 2019-2020 recycle grant. So the $4,925 is allocated for in the grant funds that I currently have. It was also, I just wrote it into the 2020-2021 request for funding. I have not heard back yet about any of our grant requests through the Division of Waste Management. But I feel fairly confident that this is something that they would approve.
Okay. Very good. All right. Let's start with Squire Moore for questions.
I have a concern that, the first year is free, then the second year is 5,000, third year is 5,000. People get used to this and really like it. And very few people may be using it, but then it goes to 6,000 or 8,000 a year. That's just a concern I have. If there are a lot of people using it, it might be worth it, but if there's 20 or 30 people using it, not so much.
And that's something we can always look into after the initial contract is over. After those 3 years, it does go on to a yearly commitment. So if we decide to go ahead with this 3-year agreement, and then do find that it's not working towards the best of our abilities, or it's not working the way we want it to, we can definitely revisit and decide to end the agreement.
Okay, thanks, Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
Squire Booth. I see she's gone. Squire Tracy. Squire Tracy, you're on.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I agree with Squire Moore. Obviously, I understand this year has been approved, but the next year and the following year hasn't. And I would have a hard time with the thought of going into this agreement without the knowing of the following second and third year, while asking department heads and other elected officials to make cuts to their upcoming budgets and to preserve as much as possible in their current budget. So that's where I'm at with it.
Let's see, Squire Muller.
Yeah, good evening, Brittany, and thank you for the presentation. Have you talked to any other counties that are using this app?
Yes. I think it's Somerset and Pulaski County. I believe they have this, if I'm getting the county right. They have this app and they've had it for a couple years, and it's actually worked very well for them. They see a lot of participation, and that's something that we can track. This company offers a lot of different ways to track resident engagement, and we can utilize that data to further promote the product or further promote the app and gather support and utilization of it.
Okay.
Okay, and then you made the comment that it's approved for this year, and you hope to hear soon if it will be approved for the next fiscal budget. Do you have any idea of when that might be?
So the date for the household hazardous waste recycle and compost applications was originally April 1st. The state has extended it to tomorrow, to May 1st. I did submit our applications on March 30th or March 31st, and they have stated that they will be reviewing applications as they receive them. So I'm hoping we hear shortly. I don't know how, I don't know where on the list we are. But I know the state is very busy dealing with all sorts of stuff. So I've been trying to do my best to not bug anybody too much.
No, I understand. It's a tough time for everybody. I would be interested to see, to Squire Moore's point, what the percentage of people in Somerset or Pulaski are using it per population. That would be a one question for me. And then the other would be just I heard what Squire Tracy said also, as far as, because we are making serious cuts to the budget, it'd be hard if we had to pay for this. So my question would be, and Judge, I guess it's a question for you, is could we bring this back after she hears if we get the grant or not?
Do you need to know this now, Brittany?
I do need to know this before this year's grant cycle closes, and that is June 30th. I do want to add, and I don't know what. Well, I do want to add that this is kind of this is something that the city has looked into and is actually pursuing this, which is why I brought it back to the table. Because we were going to talk about this a couple months ago, but I'm interested, something I hear a lot is the city is doing one thing with solid waste, why isn't the county? Well, I understand the budgetary needs. Believe me, I want this, I really hope this is covered. I believe it will be by the state's grants. But I feel like it's something that would really help with residents, and I'm hoping we can work through this.
Okay. Squire Blackburn?
I agree.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate everything.
You go, okay. Squire Blackburn?
Yes, Brittany, thank you so much for presenting today. I agree. I think it's a good thing, especially the notification feature and being able to track the citizen engagement. I know, how would you go about advertising the app?
So what I've thought about so far, going through our normal channels, and then promoting it at any kind of tabling event that we are able to hold once restrictions are kind of lifted a little bit. We are also planning on, I've discussed with Central Kentucky Hauling about sending out new pickup schedules and even including a waste disposal guide that Ashley and I have been working on. So that was already in talks before everything related to COVID-19. So they were going to handle that, and if we're able to get this passed, I would include something related to this, and it would be, or something mentioning this, and it would be sent to every county household. Oh, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Squire.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'm completely for this, but I do have concerns like Magistrate Moore and the others had, and Magistrate Muller had a good point. If we weren't forced with time, it would be great to know that this is paid for when we vote on it, instead of assuming that it might be. So if it's not a problem, I'm for waiting as well.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question.
Hold on, Squire Booth. Hold on. We still are in rotation, and I'll get to you in just a second.
Okay.
Before I go to Squire Sebastian, Brittany, do you want to comment on Squire Blackburn's asking to hold off? And I think you said we need to move on this. I'm not sure. What's your answer to that?
We need to make a decision to whether or not to make a commitment. I would hope we could make a decision today, but I would need to know before the grant cycle ends, which is June 30th, and I would need enough time before then to process this with Recollect and make sure I have enough time to report it to in my final reporting, which can be done at a later date. In the meantime, I mean, I'll reach back out to the state and see if they're anywhere near making decisions.
Yeah, I think your statement is saying you don't know whether this decision is going to be made before June 30th. And that's the important question, is whether it's going to be made before June 30th, which will be the last meeting of our year. And if not, then we won't be able to, then we're kind of out of pocket. Isn't that kind of what you're saying, Brittany?
If I'm understanding you right, yes, I believe so.
The grant that you've applied for, even though it ends tomorrow, doesn't mean that the decision will be made on whether we get the monies or not before June 30th. It may be July or August before the grant is decided upon. That's my statement.
This first year is allocated for out of the 2019-2020 funds, which that grant cycle ends on June 30th.
Okay.
So I would need to know prior to that in order to process this and utilize the funds from the state for 2019-2020. The applications for 2020-2021, which I've already submitted to the state, their final due date is tomorrow for application. So after that, they should be starting to send notification of funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year for these specific grants, including the recycle grant, which is where this funding is coming from.
All right.
Does that make sense?
No. So I'm going to ask for a little clarification. Squire Sebastian, I'm going to get to you in just a second. So, are you saying that the monies that, if this were approved, would be eligible, and we know we would have it through next June of 2021? And what we're asking for is to write it in the grant, you would write it in this new grant for 21 to 22?
So,
All right. We have 2 months left. We have May and June left. So we're not, are you asking we're not asking to use the funds because it's already been approved for 2 months, are we?
the funding that I have right now is good to pay for 1 year of this agreement.
Okay, there you go. And that would start June 30th or that would start May 1st?
According to the contract I have, it's actually effective starting April 1st, which is already passed because our contract in this version, our contract is contingent with the cities.
Okay.
They need to, in order for this to work, because the city and the county would have a joint app in this version, which is cost savings for both, because otherwise it would be about $7,000 or $8,000 rather than close to $5,000. So there's no, with the grant funding I have right now, there's no way we could go at it on our own. So that's why it's these contracts are contingent on each other, and since the city has already gone ahead with their side, it would be effective as of April 1st. So we would pay the $4,925 out of grant funds for April 1st, 2020 to April 1st, 2021. And then if we receive the grant funding for next year, as I'm hoping we will, that funding will pay for April 2021 to April 2022. And then we would see what would happen with the third year.
Okay, very good. Squire Moore, I'll get to you in a second. It's Squire Sebastian's turn.
All right, thank you. Brittany, on this Recollect app, what other apps were reviewed and what made Recollect stand out from the other applications that are on the market?
Honestly, Squire, I don't have an answer to that question because this was written in before my time. So this is something that was written into the grant application by Blair, and I don't have the research prior to that.
Okay, can you tell us why this is set up for, I've read the agreement, and why it's set up for a 3-year agreement? The reason I'm questioning that is because technology changes rapidly. I can go outside and the app I have on my phone right now is already old. So we're going to be locked into a 3-year commitment for potentially some old software. Certainly they're going to update the app, but there could be other products on the market that are less expensive and are more robust to us if we're looking at an endeavor like this.
The conversations that I've had with their representative and the video tutorials that she has shown me, they're, like, as you said, they're constantly updating what they have, and their metrics, the way that they measure things are constantly evolving. So this, from what I understand about app development, this seemed like a great way to track resident participation and get information out to people as quick as possible. I mean, that's all I really have. This is something that I'm trying to, this is something that was written into a grant that I'm trying to make sure that the county continues with what we've asked for via grants with solid waste. So I'm kind of coming in behind the ball on this one because it's not something that I've initially researched.
Okay, so on page 1,
We're not hearing you, Squire Sebastian. Not hearing you.
I'm sorry, are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
I think there's a lag.
I'm talking, so I'm sure, are you picking me up now?
Yes.
All right, so on page 1 of the agreement, it lists the effective date of the contract as, which of course is mentioned 29 days ago, as per the City of Frankfort contract. So it appears that we are trying to piggyback on an existing agreement because later on in the document on page 12, it gives us Schedule B dates, and it lists those as April 21st, 2020 through May 30th of 2023. So are we a party with the city in this, or is this our own? Because the dates completely conflict in 2 different places in this document.
So April 21st is the date that I reached back out to Recollect, because this is something, as I mentioned, we were looking at bringing to the court's attention a few months ago, and it was at the point where I was going through some budgeting and had to revisit some grant spending. And once I figured out the recycle budget, I reached back out to Recollect after putting them on a pause, because when I first was brought on, we were in the middle of working on this. So I put it on a pause and I reconnected with them a little over a week ago. So that's where that April 21st comes from, because that is the day that they actually put this together. But yes, it was initially discussed with the city before it was written into the grant application, that I do know. So these contracts are contingent on each other for the county's benefit.
Okay, on page 5 of this agreement, section 4, term 4.2 says the agreement is automatically going to renew for a term, at the end of the term, so it's automatically gonna renew for additional 1-year periods, unless some kind of written notice is provided 30 days before the end of the contract, which would be, March 30th of 2023, is that correct?
That, I believe that is correct, yes, and that is something that I have talked about with their representative. And as I mentioned, we are more, if it gets to the point where we don't believe that this is working effectively for the county, then we can cancel this agreement and it will not automatically renew.
And then it goes on in page 5 of the agreement, section 5, where it talks about payment terms. And it says that it's due, the funds, the 4925 you've referenced is due upon signing, when Franklin County applies for the grant to pay for that. And so it also says that we have to pay in advance and that it is non-refundable. So if we get into this grant, if we get into this application and we're not seeing benefit out of it, we can't pull out and get any of the funds back to put towards another product, the way I have read it. So I'm open to comments from you, because I know you've read it as well as I have.
Sherry, that's correct. This is Rick. Squire, you are correct that the non-refundability.
It also talks about, It also talks about, in section 6, intellectual property, that Recollect has limited and non-exclusive license to use customer content. And later on in the document, it talks about personally identifiable information, which is typically a no-no for some third party that we contract with. So can somebody speak to that?
Rick, can you speak to that?
I'm trying to look up that section here. Bear with me. Which you're talking about, section 6, Squire?
Intellectual property. What it does in 6.2, it talks about their limited and non-exclusive license to use customer content. So my question is that personally identifiable information? Because later in the document, it references PII pretty liberally.
The kind of PII, and if you'll look in specifically in section 34, third party, intellectual property applicable to both, and it's a Canadian companies, so that's why it references to Canada. Personal identifying information will not include social security numbers, etc. It be under U.S. law, it may include addresses, IPN numbers, websites, etc., where they've collected the information.
Yeah, they're
But I'd also note that you can't just limit to section 6. Read section 7 as well. The customer retains only.
two references PII, but
You're correct as to the PII, but the data security is all going to remain.
right. I was saying that. Yep. Okay, it references it again in 7.2, so I just wanted to kind of bring that up. Where it says, and it does say in 7.1 that they cannot sell it.
That's correct.
They
It's a lot
cannot
more
sell
restricted.
the customer's data.
It's a lot more restricted than Facebook does, I'll tell you that.
So I guess the key thing for me is when there is an app that is available for use, it is not governed by some sort of location. So if I'm sitting out in the county and Recollect is available, I can pop in, as Brittany used the analogy of a refrigerator. Where can I put that? Whether the county latches onto that or not, if the city's gone ahead, people can still utilize this application. So we've talked a number of times this morning about people having to cut back on their existing budget and not entering into new contracts or pulling in new activities. So I have to hearken back after looking at the application, after the conversations this morning about not taking on new
Okay. Squire Booth?
activities, that
I'm sorry, hold
that
on.
will cost the county some funds when we're asking others to cut. And also knowing how an application works. And also, no, I'm not sure what's happening there, Judge. I'm still just trying to make a point here about when an application is out there and you type in information, it is not governed by a location. So if this app is up and running for this area, whether the county pays dollars toward it or not, it's still gonna be available to everyone who tries to use it.
Let them know there's a lag and the lag should stop.
Squire
The
Booth?
way that I understand it, Sherry, is that it is specific to, folks need to enter their address into it. The way that the city is paying for it is based off of the number of residents in your population. So I mean, if with the city using it, I haven't been told whether or not or how it would work. I'm sure that residents could go whenever the city does get it up on their website. People could go and type it in on there. But it won't really have information specific to county residents. So it won't have specific information regarding county programs or county services. It would be specific to the city.
Okay,
Jerry, I may speak, Judge.
go ahead, Squire Booth.
The point that Jerry brought up about asking other departments to make cuts, I don't think we can afford this, especially if we have to pay it now, without any service provided or any promise of service provided. Well, they promised you, yes, but
Well, remember this first
Yes,
payment comes from a grant. This first payment is written in a grant. We would not make this first payment.
okay, good. Well, also, the intellectual property usually refers to the application that's used to run this service. And if they decide or they update, we'll have to pay for an update ourselves. I've been through this with the tourism cabinet at least 2 times, where the application or the software that was written by their people, they were not going to share it with us. They're going to ask us to pay for it if we want to change, and also if they update it, we'll have to pay for the update to go to our particular service. So I don't like the intellectual property part of this contract.
Squire Booth, if I may, just as a correction, that's incorrect. It's a flat fee, $4,900 year one, grant pays year one. They try to pay grant year 2 and 3. You're on the hook for grant 2 and 3 maybe, but there's no fee for revisions or updates, much like you would have to do if they did another one. It's a flat fee for those 3 years, man. It's the funding source that's a question.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
Okay,
I thought that might bring you some comfort.
there you go. Thank you. Okay, Squire Moore, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think this is, 2010 stuff. I don't think with social media and our own website, I think we can do this on our own without, this company, so that's where I am.
All right, let's hope.
I had one more thing, Judge. If we don't use the money for this, Brittany, can we use it for other things?
We cannot, it would have to be turned back into the state, at the end of the grant period because it's been allocated for this. I just wanted to make a point based on what you just said previously. The majority of phone calls that I receive on a daily basis are about how people can dispose of specific items. And that's one thing that this would help with. As well as, dealing with delays or updates to the recycle program, like how the county is currently not taking recycling to the Lexington recycle facility due to a shutdown. And we announced that about 3 weeks ago. And I still receive emails daily someone emailed me this morning saying, I noticed the trash hauler dumping both carts into the one truck, what's going on? And we've announced it on the county's website and on both social media pages. And I believe the judge even said something about it in one of his press conferences.
Okay, anything else? All right, let's move on to the next item. Brittany, thank you. We're gonna have a vote on it in just a moment.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your presentation. The next,
Hey, Judge?
yes, okay. Squire Muller.
Judge?
Squire Muller.
Thank you. I've listened to everybody, and I've listened to Brittany, and I'm just wondering if we couldn't pull this and push it 1 or 2 meetings, and that would still meet her deadline, instead of just, voting yes or no and then it'd be over. I think it might get better traction. It seemed like she was going to hear pretty quickly about getting approved for next year, for this year's budget, I'm sorry. So I was wondering if we could maybe pull this and put it on either the next meeting or the one after that, and she would still have plenty of time. I think everybody would feel better if it was free, let's just say it like that.
Sure it would.
I agree.
Brittany, could we put it on the May 30th meeting? And hopefully that you know something, or or put it on the May 15th meeting if we were to hold off on this meeting?
May 30th would definitely give me more time to hear back from the state.
When do we meet on May 30th?
Double check.
What do we meet? Just give me the date.
I can't see on this calendar.
I would just have to double check with Recollect how long it takes to actually get through the contract signing and getting the payments through and making sure that I can get all that information back in time to submit my year-end report to the state.
Okay, well, I'm okay with pulling it. If ever, I thought I heard Squire Moore say he was okay with pulling it. Anybody else okay with pulling it? Okay, look like we've got 4 votes to pull it. We'll either put it on the 15th based on what you find out, or we'll put it on the what?
28th.
The 20 what?
28th.
The 28th. May 28th. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank y'all for hearing me out.
No, it's great. We're glad you did. So we're going to pull item number 8 and catch it at another time in the near future. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, John Mitchell, let's talk about a resolution adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid co-op program with the state. And you've got a box culvert as well. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about road aid. Yeah.
This is a revised version from the state. Of course, the money went down. So this one came in with our 3% reduction. We're at like $699,000 in county road aid this time, which is more than $100,000 off of their previous projection.
Yeah. Yep. I think they've gone back to 720. They went to 699, and now I think they've gone back to 720. they're doing all they can to find a little bit more. Is that right, Tambra?
Yeah.
I believe you told me earlier 720, but it is almost $100,000 reduction from the original proposal that we looked at in January. So they've asked that we bring this back up so the court is made aware. Timber, would you read the amount again exactly?
$720,758.65.
Okay.
The previous resolution, I believe, was resolution number 3, 2020.
Okay. So John, you get that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion? Raise your hand, give me a thumb or whatever if you want to ask John a question about that. All right, John, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, this is the Goose Creek project I've been working on for the past 2 years, trying to get this done. The first time we bid this out, we had some advertising issues, so that didn't work. This time, we bid this out and had some pretty good price, but there's still some qualification issues. It's kind of a headache to get all this together, and at this given point in time, I really don't want to spend the money just yet. I think we can hold out and put this into the next budget year and start on it there. And I'm hoping we can do it in-house and save us some money.
Okay. We like that. That's music to our ears, saving us money, but that's out in Squire Moore's district. Squire Moore?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Mr. John Mitchell, thank you. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you.
The next item, let's call the chief up. Chief, you got 3 items. Promote a firefighter, hire a firefighter, and approve a contract with Galls for fire department uniforms.
Thank you, Judge, and good evening, Court. We are recommending authorization to promote Nicholas Scroggin to engineer. He was first on the engineers list to be promoted, and that vacancy comes with the resignation of Ken Blair. Questions?
Any questions on that? Okay, next.
Authorization to hire a firefighter.
Hold it. Somebody have a question? Squire Muller has a question. Hold up, Chief. Go ahead, Squire Muller.
Thank you, sir. Chief, could you explain to me what the duties of an engineer are?
Yes, sir. An engineer is several things. One is takes care of some of the maintenance on the trucks, things that are within their realm. They're also the water control officer at structure fires, which ensures all the trucks are connected in a proper manner and safe working operating pressure of the water is controlled. Hopefully, if we're in a pretty good spot, it's a fairly easy job, but when we're in the rural part of the county and you're running a tanker and drafting operation, that is the busiest individual on the fire scene.
Squire Muller, does that answer your question? Okay. All right, Chief, let's go to hire a firefighter.
Yes, we are recommending this individual to be hired to fill the slot that Nicholas Scroggin will lead when he promotes to engineer. This individual is first on the current list, which was certified by
HR Betty Jo Redknapp. We, excuse me, we are recommending him to be hired. Questions?
Squire Booth?
I don't know his name. It's not on my agenda.
We'll announce his name when it comes to the voting session.
It's in our packet.
It's in your
Okay.
packet. It's in your packet.
Oh,
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Chief, go to item number 3.
Court, thank you. At this time, I'll hand this exciting news over to Assistant Chief Burke.
Thank you, Chief. The item before you, Chief and I have been extremely busy with everything that's going on, and we've asked Dawn to work with our uniform vendor on possible extension. She deals with them on a very regular basis. She handles most of the clothing orders for the uniforms for the guys, and she was actually did a great job, was able to discuss them and get them to offer to extend the contract for another year with no price increase.
Always
Any
good.
questions?
Always good to hear that. Questions? Questions? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. You all stay safe, and thanks to all of the firefighters that are out there that are protecting our community. Next item on the agenda is authorization to approve a sublease agreement with the Administrative Office of the Courts for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the County Attorney's Office, the Crime Victims Advocate space in the courthouse or the Judicial Center. Rick, you want to talk about those? You talked about them briefly this morning. You want to talk about them briefly again?
Thank you, Judge, and I'll do my best to be brief on the matter. First of all, I think the court should recognize what a unique, and I don't mean that in a complimentary way, transaction that the courthouse was originally funded. This represents a sublease from the Franklin County tenant, because Franklin County owns it, AOC rents it, and they're renting these spaces back. And I think they're doing it for accounting purposes as much as anything. So they've requested that the county lease its building back because of the funding mechanism that they utilize in paying the county. For example, I understand that AOC pays 100% of what the bill would be for renting the courthouse from the county, and then the county pays back AOC for non-judicial spaces. These are the non-judicial spaces, i.e. the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the space that's not occupied by the judges or bailiffs, that is the County Attorney's Office, and the space occupied and paid for by a VOCA grant, which is the Crime Victims Advocate space. I don't frankly recall a lease previously where we subleased the property back. I guess in the totality of the transaction, it sort of makes sense and it keeps it clean, and they've presented us a lease just to delineate that the property that are occupied by non-judicial officers are not subject to the payment that's owed to the county. I guess is the cleanest way I can state it. Susan may correct me, but that's how I understand this to be on.
didn't sound
And
right.
it's the exact same agreement for all of, or for the 3 non-judicial space holders.
So let's make it clear. We've been paying this for a number of years, but now they've put it in paper. They wanted to make sure that everybody understood that these, there was a lease agreement. Yeah. Susan, do you want to comment on that?
Judge, we have not been paying the Commonwealth Attorney space.
But we have been paying the
We
county.
have been paying for the county attorney space and the crime victim advocate
Right.
space. We have not been remitting back to the state for the Commonwealth attorney space.
but we are getting, 27,000.
27,000, yes.
Yes,
So we'll have a deficit, county subsidy for the Commonwealth attorney space of about $13,000 net result. So that in the upcoming budget.
and we hadn't been paying because they hadn't been sending us a bill for it, knowing that we were going to, so we have been receiving $27,000, is that correct? But not using it towards the payment over these years.
The Commonwealth attorney has had space in the judicial center.
That is correct.
The county has received about $27,000 a year in TAC money.
There you go. So I like it. We're ahead of the game. But now.
Hopefully they don't back bill us.
That's right. Okay. All right. Are there questions about this? Squire Booth.
If we pay, for the Commonwealth's attorney's space in our payment to the Administrative Office of Courts, do they give us back that 27,000?
Well, that's a good question, Squire Booth. Again, the county attorney tried to explain it, and I'll try to say it again because it is just by virtue of our relationship with the state, a back and forth agreement. So the Judicial Center is 100% AOC operations expense, that according to our contract with them, which they front the money to us on a quarterly basis based on a calculation for the operations of 100% of the Judicial Center for AOC purposes. However, it's not 100%. As you can see, there's a certain amount of square footage carved out for 3 other offices. So in turn, they bill us for that space that's not theirs. So we're returning, in some sense or form, money that they have possibly given us for operating space, except for the PAC money. So it's confusing and it's convoluted, but as the judge pointed out, this is kind of a catch-up. So moving forward, we're probably square with AOC at this point.
Well, let's leave it that way.
Okay, amen. Amen.
Trust them.
Now, I will tell you all the reason, I want to ask you all to vote in 3 votes on it, and it's because of the different funding sources. And it's not one contract, but it is the same agreement, but because one office is PAC funded, one is VOCA funded, and then one's county liability, that's why there'll be 3 votes.
Okay. Any questions? Any more questions on this? Any other questions on this? Squire Booth?
The VOCA, yes, the county is your office, Rick. The PAC money, what does that stand for, PAC?
That's the Prosecutors Advisory Council. That's the local prosecutors funded stream that funds state prosecutors, i.e. county attorneys and Commonwealth attorneys.
Uh-huh. But do you get any of that? Your office get any of that PAC money?
The Prosecutors Advisory Council funds 3 assistant county attorneys and the county attorney's prosecutorial duties, as well as 1 support staff, but not any financial contribution for office space. The fiscal court's responsible for funding county attorney office space.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Miss Susan, let's go to the treasurer's report then.
Is that the huge document? Yes,
Susan, let's go to the treasurer's report, please, and the payment of bills.
Let's start with the good news. The quarter ending 3/30 deadline for payments was today, 4/30. So we are still receiving payments for payroll taxes and net profits and insurance premium taxes. As of today, As of today, we have 98% of our budget in payroll, and we will meet or exceed, and most likely exceed our payroll budget, payroll tax budget. So we will most likely exceed at this point. I talked with Lee, and there's some big companies still out. Again, this is for quarter ending 3/30. Net profits, we have already exceeded the amount budgeted. We are at 106% of the amount budgeted on net profits license fees, even though the deadline was extended to July 15th. However, when you look at the revenue report, always a note of caution that we've created separate classifications for extensions and estimated payments so that we know where those advances are against future either profits or losses. So that's just the nature of net profits license fees. Insurance premium taxes, we will exceed that amount budgeted. We're already at 99% of the amount budgeted, so we will have strong receipts in all of our major budget categories for this current fiscal year. So
Wow.
The impact of the COVID really will not be really straightforward evident until quarter ending 6/30 reporting. However, I'd like to address Squire Sebastian's earlier question about if we have received any guidance from the state about calculating COVID impacts. And tonight on the agenda, we had the county road aid agreement, and we have already received guidance from the state saying that estimate is 12% down from the prior year. Our participation with the county road aid program has always been on the basis of receiving a lump sum payment, which is called the cooperative agreement. And under the cooperative agreement program, we get 97% of the contract. So based on that, we would typically get in August a very large lump sum money. So for example, in the current year's budget, we received a lump sum in August of let's see, of $556,000 in August. That is a large sum of money at one time that provides cash flow during the lean time, the very lean first quarter of the county's fiscal year. If you noticed in the packet, there was a letter that accompanied the county road aid agreement from the commissioner, I don't know who exactly signed the letter, but it cautions that the money will only be dispersed as the funds are available. And in prior years, they had basically advanced the money. So there's some financial uncertainty based on the availability of financial resources of the state that certainly can impact the county. So as far as our notification and impact, we know it's 12% down, and we know we may not get a full lump sum in August. The other guidance we have received is from the Department of Revenue that we should keep our property taxes flat, which means basically for budgetary purposes, budget the same amount as you did in the prior year until further notice. So moving forward, and most likely before there's any additional guidance on that or information, we will have completed our budget process. So any increases in taxes could be amended in the next fiscal year. And as well, the Department of Insurance has issued guidance in the form of a letter from the commissioner there that, which is, this is good news actually. It's their opinion that any return of insurance premium tax would be unwarranted if there are refunds of insurance premiums. So that position by the Department of Insurance is in defense of the counties and their revenue, and probably the state's revenue as well. So
Thank you. Susan, do you anticipate getting additional guidance? Because today I read an article that quoted a coworker of mine, John Hicks, who is currently the state budget director, and it talked about how the Commonwealth is going to try to address a $500 million shortfall. So I'm wondering if there has been additional guidance, because this has just come out today. And they have the consensus forecasting group that works with the Office of State Budget Director and others, to make some calculations so that and we certainly know that the state has put in place a 1-year spending plan rather than a biennial budget, so that they can better address at a later point, revenues that are coming in and how they're going to address expenditures, necessary expenditures. So, do we anticipate getting additional guidance? I'm assuming we will, based on what I read today.
As a arm of the state, to the extent that the state makes these decisions, they do flow through various agencies of the state government to give us guidance. Our regulatory agency, the Department for Local Government, has to serve 120 counties, and we know very well that that's too many counties, and there's vast variations in the counties and their financial positions and their financial makeup. So providing uniform guidance to serve that many different versions is not practical, and a lot of times is avoided by the state for that very reason, because it doesn't make sense for, it's not one size fits all, and that a lot of times they want to give out guidance that's one size fits all, and it doesn't look good on anybody. So a lot of our guidance will be piecemeal, and will, as everybody will say, it's very fluid, and the state has to make a lot of these decisions first before the counties can make decisions and see the impact. So we'll just keep our ears to the ground, and as you all become aware of information, please share it with me from your various agencies and associations. Do not assume that I've already heard it, or at least heard it in a form that may be more meaningful and applicable to our community than it is to business community.
Well, I know in the document that we received from the Transportation Cabinet, I mean, it was very clear. It says we are afraid that we will not, that it is not possible to pay a portion of our share up front. So I'm assuming they are hedging their bets on motor fuel taxes, et cetera, which they already know those receipts are down, to be able to make some adjustments to this allotment that they've talked about providing to us and to other counties.
Thank you. Yes, Squire.
Okay, Squire Booth?
I noticed today, like Sherry, that the county retirement has been separated from the Kentucky employees' retirement. Is that a good thing for us, for our county? Do you think?
I think that's more in the lines of, why don't we, if you don't mind, I think that's kind of, that could be a personal issue, or let's, if you don't mind, Squire Booth, let's move on with the agenda, and we can ask that question among, there's probably 10 different answers here to that question, okay?
I know we wanted it, I know, okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of people want it, some people don't, so, I've got another item on the agenda for Susan to talk about, and that's payment of bills.
Okay.
Wait, we haven't finished with the treasurer's report, have we?
I thought I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't finished. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't know you were going around. Susan was answering something that I had said earlier in the meeting. We hadn't done the round robin, so I'm gonna let you start with Squire Moore, and I'll just hold my peace.
Squire Moore.
Go ahead, Judge, I'm all right.
Squire Tracy. Squire Tracy. Squire Booth.
No, that was the only question I had.
Squire Muller. Squire Muller. Okay. Squire Blackburn. Squire Sebastian.
Yeah, Susan, I'm looking at encumbrances. Yes, can you not hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm looking at encumbrances and certainly, you know, I know it's typical to have payroll encumbrances. But in looking at some of these encumbrances, some of them are standing out because we are so close to the year end. And one of them that's kind of jumping out, and Brittany was talking earlier, she still might be on the call, may be able to address this, is an encumbrance on page 6 of the document under road maintenance. But I think it's more a Brittany question maybe, or you can resolve it, or maybe if John's still on the call. There's an encumbrance for $26,000 for solid waste litter disposal. Can somebody talk a little bit about the purpose of that encumbrance and what it's been encumbered for, and how we're going to be able to utilize that $26,000 between now and the end of the fiscal year, please? Thank you.
Squire Sebastian, I do know that there is a check in the bill packet for a return of grant funds in the amount of, I don't have the exact amount in front of me, but it's around, that may be the exact amount, 26,000. It was unused grant funds. And at the time of the printing of the expense report, the check had been written because we're on a cash basis, so it showed it as an encumbrance as opposed to a monthly expense. But in the court bills, you'll see a check to the Kentucky State Treasurer of that corresponding amount, most likely.
Yes, there are actually two checks, Susan.
And can somebody address why we're sending money back?
Yep. Go ahead, Brittany.
I think she's already gone. I told her after her agenda item she could leave. The litter waste program, the roadside pickup trash, was not held this year. That was in between two different positions, between Blair leaving and Brittany being hired. So if you do, that money can only be used for roadside trash pickup. It's very specific. We did receive more money than that. And what funds we did not use had to be returned.
Yes, okay.
So you're saying we got 26,000 for roadside pickup and we couldn't schedule a time for that throughout the fiscal year of 2019 to 20, right? That's what I'm hearing? We couldn't schedule a time all year long?
No, well, there was a time schedule, but it couldn't be overseen because it was scheduled for the fall, and Blair left, and so without a supervisor, without someone monitoring it, we didn't have a spot filled until right around the 1st of November, which meant that it was too cold and too wet and the weather was bad, so we lost out on that.
And that is a calendar year grant. We did use some of those funds. We did not return all of them, but a majority of that program is the roadside litter pickup. And like the judge said, it was scheduled for the fall, but with a transition of personnel, had we known there was going to be a transition of personnel in the fall, we most certainly would have held it in the spring or summer. However, that was not foreseen.
So a lot of these agencies that were approved to do this were school groups, so they could make money. And so the school groups, they didn't do it in the spring, and they scheduled them for the fall. And so it just so happened that Blair left in August. There was no supervisor of this grant at the time. And then the first person that came in, or new hire came in at the end of October, 1st of November, and it was too late. Just one of those unfortunate things. It ain't gonna happen again, I can tell you that, as best as we can. Squire Tracy.
Yes, sir.
Squire Tracy.
Judge, quick question. Has anyone reached out? I know at one point, people were filing or sending their paperwork in or their email or however they registered to take part in this program. Has anyone reached out to those organizations to let them know
They
that
did.
this
They
isn't
did.
going to be done?
They did, and they've also rebid it again, and we've got groups in line to get it done for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Muller. Squire Muller.
Two questions. Can you hear me, Judge?
Yep.
Okay, is there a reason we have to send it back right now? I mean, we still have 2 months left. Is there any opportunity that we could pull something together in the next 2 months?
That grant closed out today, tomorrow, May 1st. I think that's what Brittany said, right?
No, this is a calendar year, so it's my understanding it was the end of December. So it was only good for January to December, so anything not used as of December, the state, Brittany has to compile her reports, send it into the state, see what expenses are allowable, and any expenses that are not allowable or funds not used, then the state then bills us back. So we just received our invoice back from the state.
Yeah, this ended in 2019, December of 2019. That's a great question. I was thinking there's something else. Okay, good job, Squire. What's your second question?
That answers my next question. It was gonna be, if we could extend it. Okay.
No, we cannot, and Brittany did work with them really hard to try to get them to extend, because of the change in personnel, but because of the grant guidelines, they would not. And then also, back to Squire Sebastian's question about the $26,000 in your court bill reports on page 1 of the road fund. There are 2 invoices. The second one is for $900 to Capital City Communications for March radio advertisements that are coming out of the litter abatement grant. So between that and the state treasurer refund check, that totals your $26,000.
Okay, are there any other questions? Because we have several items to go. Any other questions? Okay, Susan, let's do payment of bills as quickly as possible. Susan, payment of bills.
You all are in charge of spending money.
Okay, are there any payment of bills?
No questions on that, Judge.
All right, thank you. No questions on that? Any, Squire Tracy, you have a question? Squire Booth, you have a question? What's your question, Squire Booth? Hold on, unmute.
Yeah, I was just saying, go ahead, I have no objections.
Okay, okay, Squire Muller? Okay, Squire Blackburn? Squire Sebastian? Okay, any other business? Any other business? Squire Tracy?
Judge Wells, quick question. Did we ever hear anything back in regards to the meeting that you and I had with Representative Graham and Gravis and State Transportation Deputy Secretary Hancock in regards to paving US 127 North from mile marker 11 to 19, and also the possibility of a turning lane on US 127 North out by Steel Branch Road?
I have
I know
not.
we were originally told that the paving would take place in this next fiscal budget, but it had been pushed back, but that they would look into it and get back with us. Have you heard anything back from them in regards to that?
I have not. John
That
Mitchell, are
meeting
you on
that
the
we had.
line? John Mitchell, are you on the line? John Mitchell,
Yeah.
have
Yeah, I'm
you,
here.
did you hear anything back from them on that, what Scott Tracy asked about?
No, I have not heard anything about that.
Okay,
Judge Wells,
yes,
at that meeting, I agreed to forward the, project description from the 6-year plan back to the representative. And so I did that when we got back to the office.
okay. So we followed through on what we said we were gonna do. Okay.
Do you recall that?
Okay. Did we ever hear anything back? I know, Robert, thank you. I know originally that there were some drawings in regards to a turning lane out 127 North. We haven't heard anything back, it doesn't sound like, in regards to any part of the meeting that we all had. Would that be accurate, Judge?
I haven't heard anything on what you've asked about, no.
Okay, me neither. Okay, thank you, that's all I had, thank you.
Okay, any other questions in other business?
Judge, do you have any, information for us or report for us?
No, I do not. No, not at this time, I don't. Squire Moore, did you want something? Squire Moore, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, all right, constitutional offices, department reports, any constitutional officers? I'm sorry, Squire Muller, hold on, constitutional officer, Squire Muller?
Thank you, Judge. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Okay. I was wondering if I could request that we go back to, our meetings as far as our committee meetings, strategic planning, and some of those other meetings via, video conference, because I feel like, we must go on, and I'm hopeful that we are over the hump on this virus. So I was wondering if I could request that we schedule some of those committee meetings, so we can keep moving our county forward, sir.
we most certainly can, strategic plan, if strategic planning is what you want when we have no money, but, you wanna keep planning that, we'll do it, so.
That takes a lot of people to do.
We can come and meet and,
Well, I think, capital projects are different, and I think communication between department head.
well, the two main items which we addressed in strategic planning were the fire truck, and the Humane Society, or those weren't the main items, but those were top items, and so we handled those. The next one down was a new road department, and so, I mean, I don't mind doing it, but I don't wanna, there's no sense meeting if we have no money to do anything with. But we can do it and prioritize, and I'll be happy to do that. I'll set something up for that, but, yeah, we'll do it. We'll get it set. Okay, any other constitutional officers or department reports? Constitutional officers. Okay, hearing none,
Jeff Hancock's not on here, is he?
no, I thought I saw where he left. Jeff?
Okay,
Jeff?
He left, Judge.
Yeah, okay.
okay.
Okay. All right, if you will put your work session away and bring out your voting session, item 8 will be removed from the voting session. And if the clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Squire Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Present.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy,
Here.
Squire Booth. Oh,
She's here.
I know, but I mean,
Okay, we'll get her back in a second.
Squire Moore,
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. Would you,
Wait, okay, Squire
Our
Booth.
Bruce is here.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Would you please stand for the pledge? Squire Tracy, will you lead us in the pledge today? Please, sir. Everybody, please stand for the pledge. Okay, I'm sorry, we're not hearing Squire Tracy.
I pledge you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a little lag there.
There's a mess on that one.
That shows
That,
a lag.
that was one ugly
Beautiful.
pledge. That was one ugly pledge. But anyway, the spirit was there. Okay, the first item on the agenda is authorization approval for minutes. By the way, you can give a thumbs up as a yes or a motion, and 2 thumbs up. One of them will be a motion, the other will be a second. Okay?
Okay.
The first item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from a regular meeting of April 17th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes? Squire Sebastian, seconded by Squire Blackburn. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy. Squire Booth. Squire Moore.
Yes.
Okay.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive the county clerk's quarterly report for 3 months ending March 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Squire Moore. Is there a second? Okay, Squire Booth's got it. Thank you, Squire Booth. Okay, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore.
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is first reading of an ordinance, amending ordinance number 8, 1987, relating to the zoning ordinance in Franklin County for 85.388 acre portion of property identified as a portion of tract number 1, 84.058 acres, plus or minus, a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.00, and a portion of tract number 2, 1.331 acres, plus or minus, a portion of PVA map number 087-00-00-031.01, located at 690 Duncan Road from Agricultural District AG to Industrial General District IG. This is the first reading of this ordinance. The next item is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 8, 1987, related to the zoning ordinance in Franklin County for 3.13 acres of property identified as Tract 1A, 1B, and Tract 2 of the Suburban Park Subdivision, PVA map number 050-00-00-092.01, located at 1003 and 1005 Twilight Trail from Limited Commercial District CI to Industrial Commercial District IC. This is the first reading of this ordinance. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of an application for grant funds with the Kentucky Department for Local Government Recreation Trails Grant Program. Is there a motion? Motion by Squire Sebastian, seconded by Squire Tracy. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Squire Muller, give a thumbs up. For Dan? Thank you, he got it.
Squire Tracy? Squire Booth? Squire Moore? Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a resolution in support of submission of an application for grant funds supplemental for coronavirus response with the United States Department of Homeland Security and Federal Emergency Management Agency for assistance to the firefighters grant funds. Blackburn with the motion. Tracy with the second. Okay?
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn? Squire Muller?
Squire Muller.
Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Tracy's okay.
Squire Booth?
Booth is okay.
Squire Moore? Judge Wells?
Yes. Okay, now item number 8, authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the Franklin County to enter into a 3-year contract with Recollect Systems for the web-based application focusing on solid waste management information for resident use has been removed and will be brought up at a later time. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid co-op program contract between the Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Transportation Cabinet, Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020.
Lambert was first.
So moved.
Seconded by Squire Blackburn. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller? Squire Tracy?
Yes.
Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to reject the bids for installation of a precast reinforced concrete box culvert, RCBC, with wing walls replacement for Goose Creek Bridge.
Moore?
So moved.
Sebastian.
Second.
Call the roll. We got it.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn? Squire Muller? Squire Tracy? Squire Booth?
Yes.
Squire Moore?
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to promote Nicholas Scroggum from firefighter to engineer. Blackburn? Booth? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn? Squire Muller?
Squire Muller's okay.
Squire Tracy?
Tracy's okay.
Squire Booth?
And
Yes.
Squire
and
Moore?
Moore's okay.
Yes.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to hire Clinton Arnett as a firefighter. Squire Blackburn?
And Sebastian.
Squire Sebastian.
So moved.
You got it?
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn?
Yes.
Squire Muller?
He's good.
Squire Tracy?
He's good.
Squire Booth? Squire Moore?
And Moore's good.
Judge Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a contract extension with Galls for the fire department uniforms.
Moore?
Moore
And Tracy?
Move.
and Booth.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn? Squire Muller?
Muller's good.
Squire Tracy?
Tracy's good.
Squire Booth? Squire Moore?
I got it.
And Judge
Yes.
Wells?
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a sublease agreement with the Administrative Office of the Courts for the Commonwealth Attorney's space in the Courthouse Judicial Center.
Sebastian.
Squire Sebastian,
And
Squire Tracy.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes.
Squire Blackburn? Squire Blackburn, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
And his mic is on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm glad that they give us money for the building. I just wish they'd give us the same amount that they'd ask us to pay back. But I'm a reluctant yes.
Okay. Squire
No, we have to
Muller.
do it.
Oh. Okay. Squire Muller. Okay. Squire Tracy.
Got it.
Squire Booth.
Is this just for the county attorney's office?
This is for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
We have 3 votes.
Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
We're voting on the sublease agreement for those 3
Yes.
offices,
But we gotta
No,
do-
one at a time.
one at a time.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Squire Moore.
No,
No. Judge Wells.
Yes. We'd be in trouble if we didn't pass this one. Okay, the next item is authorization to approve a sublease agreement with the Administrative Office of the Courts for the county attorney's space in the courthouse, the Judicial Center.
Moore.
so moved.
And Blackburn.
Blackburn. Okay?
Okay. Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
He's good.
Squire Tracy.
He's good.
Squire Booth.
And Moore's
Okay.
good.
I guess I'm gonna say his name. Squire Moore.
Yes,
Okay. Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a sublease agreement with the Administrative Office of the Courts for crime victims advocate space in the courthouse.
so moved.
Moved by Squire Moore, seconded by Squire Blackburn.
Okay.
Oh.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller. Squire Tracy. Squire Booth. Squire Moore. Judge Wells.
Yes,
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Sebastian's got her hand up too.
Yeah, Blackburn and Sebastian.
Okay.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yes.
Squire Muller. Squire Tracy.
He's good.
Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore. And
He's
Judge
good.
Wells.
Yes. Next item is payment of bills. Is there a motion to deny any of the claims of the bills? Seeing none, the bills are ordered to be paid. Next item is authorization to adjourn.
Moore.
Judge, before you adjourn,
Yes.
could we revisit item 4, and just for the clerk's benefit and for the record, reflect that after the first reading of the ordinance for the zone change in item 4, the court directed or requested a transcript and a public hearing be held, just so we have a record of that.
Can she just
It
put
wasn't
down
a
what you
formal
just
vote.
said?
Yeah.
Can she put down what you just said, Ms. Counselor?
With your permission, yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I got it. No.
Read back what
Okay,
you,
thank you.
read, hold on, let her read what she put down.
Court requested a transcript and public hearing be held.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Okay?
You're welcome.
Okay. Authorization to adjourn, do you have a motion yet?
Nope.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Moore and Booth.
And Booth, okay? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Yes.
Squire Blackburn. Squire Muller. Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Thank you. Squire Booth.
Yes.
Squire Moore and Judge Wells.
Yes, and we are adjourned.